Good morning. Welcome into 104.5 The Zone. We are live again at St. Thomas Sports Park. It is the last day of Titans training camp practice, and we are happy to have you. Why is that so close to Lucas's face, Robert? What is happening here? I'm confused. Now, our camera work is crappy to begin with, all right? This whole live stream endeavor has been a disaster. I think the stream crashed on us how many different times yesterday? I saw 3 different YouTube videos of just you and me trying to get through this damn 3-hour show because for the life of us, we cannot figure out how to get the live stream on the air. And instead, we open up with just a close-up of Lucas Panzica's face. Why do I don't want this dirt. Get this dirt out of here.
Why did you let that jagaloon touch my dirt?
No. Now it's my dirt.
No.
And I'm going to do with this dirt what I please, okay?
What do you do with dirt?
What am I going to do? I'm going to take it in the parking lot and I'm going to Gronk spike it here in just a second.
No.
Young man.
You wouldn't dare.
Unhand that dirt.
Release the dirt.
You rapscallion.
There's dirt from the stadium. It's been brought out in a mason jar. Everybody's happy about it, and it's even got the date on it. What a delightful way to start the show. Bert, the dirt monster, is on his way to huff
He's tasting it.
He asked me if I would like to taste it. He called me this morning. He was so excited. The Titans president, Bert Nyhill, brought him a mason jar full of dirt, and I answered the phone, and I said, hello. He said, did you see the show? And I said, no, I'm shaving and getting ready for my show. He said, Bert Nyhill brought me some dirt. I said, okay, and I hung up. I have never seen a human being put a level of importance on a jar of soil like Robert Walsh.
Well, the Titans are putting a level of importance on it, so I feel like you should reciprocate. The president of the organization, who I imagine has a lot of things to do on the Thursday before the preseason finale, took time to gather some dirt from the pile, put it in a mason jar, label it, date it, and walk it over here, join the morning show to properly hand the jar of dirt to Bert. So, yes, I do think you should care because that's big news.
Well, I don't. 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to jump in on the show. We'd be happy to have you. Tyler Boyd is today's guest. It's the last day that we're doing a training camp broadcast. This is the end of the road for training camp at the very least. They will have a walkthrough tomorrow that's closed to the media, and then Saturday they'll schlep on down to New Orleans because this game is one of the last games of the preseason on the NFL's preseason schedule, Sunday at 1 p.m. at the Caesars Superdome. You also have the F&M Bank chat to interact with the show, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. If you are so inclined to do so, we'd be happy to have you there. A couple of different things from Titans practice yesterday. Tyler Boyd is on the show, and Tyler Boyd returned to practice, as we noted. Tyler Boyd had a great day at practice yesterday.
Back like he never left.
Well, and that is not something that you can – I don't think you should just toss that out there casually, right? Back like you never left is a very important thing for a quarterback. What do we talk about with A.J. Brown and Ryan Tannehill? When A.J. would miss some time and he would come back into the lineup and the two of them wouldn't miss a beat, right? How important that level of connection, that mind meld that a quarterback has with a wide receiver. So when you build up those reps on the front end, if you miss some time, you can get that right back and get back into the swing of things because you have that connection inherently, because you have that connection established and built in. So if Tyler Boyd can be a big part of the puzzle for Will Levis, as we absolutely anticipate him being, then it's not just, back like he never left. No, that's a huge deal for this quarterback because the offense, arguably, I'm not going to say that they were perfect by any stretch of the imagination, and we were watching from 2 fields away, so I don't want to give any level of specificity beyond acknowledging that Tyler Boyd was a critical part of them having offensive success in the red zone and converting third downs in practice yesterday. A lot of situational football. He's arguably, to me, as important as DeAndre Hopkins and Calvin Ridley for the sum of the parts, right? For the offense on the whole, for how the offense operates. Tyler Boyd is as important as the other two, and I'm sure Titans fans probably don't assign that level of importance to him, but I think you're going to see just exactly how important, how critical that slot position is in this offense, where it makes life infinitely easier on the quarterback. And without him, it looks like it did against the Seattle Seahawks, where, all right, you got Calvin Ridley, we'll take him away. Then what?
Yeah, it feels like he's going to be the security blanket. Just for the importance of the slot in this offense generally, and that's not even layering in what he brings in terms of his knowledge of the offense from his time in Cincinnati. It feels like at every turn when Tyler Boyd has talked into a microphone, whether with us, whether in a media scrum after practice, he's talked about the process of bringing Will Levis and other players on this offense along, telling them where they need to be, congratulating them on the right play, telling them what they did wrong after a bad play. So, yeah, Tyler Boyd is right up there in that top category of importance at the wide receiver position with Hopkins and Ridley, who apparently also had a nice day yesterday, Calvin Ridley.
So as we were getting ready to start practice, I did notice that Treylon Burks is out here on the practice field too, which is good news, right? This, instead of hyper-analyzing every in and out of Treylon Burks, it is newsworthy, it is noteworthy that he left practice yesterday.
It's noteworthy when anybody leaves practice.
Sure.
Yeah.
But with him, it does feel like there is it's not a feeling, there is a hypersensitivity with Treylon Burks and the training staff, right, among Titans fans. So when they see yesterday that he leaves practice at the very end, and he leaves with trainers, and he leaves after going for a ball over Trey Avery and coming down in a pile of himself again, as he is often doing. We've talked about this. The force with which he hits the ground is a problem, even as he's trying to make some of these spectacular catches that his body will allow him to make. It's about protecting himself. So, all that to say, he's back out of practice today, as is Caleb Murphy, who also went inside yesterday.
Yeah, the context is important there. That practice was basically over. So, it's not like Burks left at 10:45 a.m. He left at about noon when practice was already wrapping up and players were dispersing, going their separate ways. And he's back today, as you said. So somebody in the F&M Bank chat, AJ, says it's newsworthy when Burks does practice. And he's been out here every single day. Every single day. I mean, there was the mini scare that ended up being a cramping situation. And then yesterday, the hard fall that had him going off with the trainer at the end, that the context makes it look like precautionary reasons. But he has been out there every single day so far in training camp.
To his credit. So, I think with the offense and the things that we're trying to learn in the final week of training camp, because for all intents and purposes, at least for our intents and purposes, today is the last day of training camp for us. What I wanted to see is the offense stack days and find a level of consistency and continuity. Treylon Burks being back out here, Tyler Boyd being back in the equation after dealing with a foot bruise, that will help them accomplish this, because we are trying to see it become second nature for Will Levis. And it's not yet, and it's not supposed to be yet. You would like for him to be, of course you would like for him to be seamless in everything that he does, but that's just not the case. That's not how this thing is going to work this year, at least in the early going. So as much burden as you can take off the quarterback, Tyler Boyd is a huge piece of that puzzle. And like I said, I would argue for the knowledge, the institutional knowledge of the offense that he brings, the trust that the head coach clearly has in him, and the reliance that the quarterback is, not even like developing on him, but came in before he was even signed, talking about, I can't wait to get this guy in here because he's going to help me help teach me the offense and help, basically be the catalyst to making this thing go sooner than it might otherwise be if they'd have gone with, let's say Kyle Phillips was the slot option here, or, NWI can play slot, right? This is something that helps by leaps and bounds just by his mere presence on the field, of course. On the field matters infinitely more than off the field, though his presence off the field is important too.
Jim Wyatt charted Will Levis yesterday at 14 of 29 for the day, said he started a little slow but settled in, closed strong, and Jim to this point has Levis at 145 of 219 with 8 interceptions in 7-on-7s and team periods combined. Jack Gibbons had an interception on Levis yesterday, and Jalen Harrell had a couple really good reps against J.C. Latham, it sounds like, in team drills, but they left the practice field on a more positive note yesterday than they did on the final day of joint practice against the Seahawks, the offense, that is.
You get a little choked up about the offense's slow start? Are you emotional about it? What happened?
I ate a lot of sweet potato chips before we came on the air.
It's 10 a.m.
Yeah, they're really good.
Okay.
There's a whole tub of them in the media room.
Yeah, that doesn't mean that you have to eat them at 10 a.m.
I ate so many.
Like, do you have some kind of condition, like worms or something like that? I'm genuinely curious about how your body metabolizes, not even metabolizes, digests so fast with the amount that you eat. But that's not what you're here listening to the radio show about. We are going to continue with some practice observations. There is league-wide news that we are also going to cover. But coming up next, we are going to get into a discussion about NFL teams with the most confusing off seasons and where the Titans might rank. Not for us, because I think for us, we understand, and we have, firsthand experience of what this team needed. So we understand why the team made all the different kinds of moves that it made. But to a lot of people are looking at the Titans being like, oh, they're making moves like they intend to compete meaningfully this year, which may be different than other people had expectations for the Titans. So we'll talk about the NFL's most confusing off seasons and a team today that continues to make transactions as a part of those confusing off seasons. Coming up next, live from St. Thomas Sports Park, it's 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back here at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park. Titans practice ongoing. We've got, well, I can't tell you what we've got right now because there aren't fans out here. We've gotten into such a habit of having Titans fans out here taking in practice that I've been able to tell you everything that's going on, but it is closed until the end of the day at this point, other than to note some attendance type stuff like Traylon Burks is back at practice today after leaving with the training staff at the very end of practice yesterday. So nothing to get too alarmed about at this point. So NFL teams that have had bizarre off seasons. If I ask you which team had the strangest off season this year ahead of this 2024 NFL season, word association, what is the first team that comes to your mind?
Cowboys.
Kirby also said Cowboys. I think a lot of people would say Cowboys. The all-in messaging from Jerry Jones, he's not actively antagonizing CeeDee Lamb, but he's not doing anything to alleviate the situation in his public comments, which is very Jerry. And they bring back Zeke Elliott. Which,
they you could argue the Cowboys got worse in the offseason, right? They lose Tony Pollard. They bring back Zeke Elliott.
Yeah.
What did the Cowboys do other than draft? I can't even remember who
they drafted offensive linemen.
No, that's right.
They drafted a lot of offensive linemen, and that's fine because they listen. The Cowboys successfully drafted. I know Jerry is technically the GM, but they do have a great personnel department.
That's why they're in this pickle.
Place, yeah, because they have three players at the three most important positions, arguably. In Dak Prescott, needs a new contract. CeeDee Lamb needs a new contract. Micah Parsons, going to need a new contract here in the very, very near future. And all of these players are now extension eligible, and none of them have yet to get paid. So with everything that's going on there, and again, Jerry's persona, it puts, and also the fan base, right? The fan base is a national fan base. I'm still so perplexed by the idea that there are so many Cowboys fans because in my lifetime, I know I was technically alive for the Cowboys' last Super Bowls, okay? But it is not in my cognitive lifetime that the Cowboys have ever mattered in any real consequential way. And when they do get to the postseason, they choke, right? They're choking dogs in the playoffs in the last basically 2 decades of football. So with where they are and kind of teetering on this window, for future Las Vegas Raider Dak Prescott to potentially look at and say, you know what, Jerry, it's fun. It's been fun, but it's not been that fun. I'm going to go to Vegas and I'm going to get paid. I just think that the Cowboys are probably at the top of the list, and you almost have to have a conversation separate of the Cowboys when you talk about teams with the most confusing off seasons.
Well, as a Cowboys fan, let me tell you, I lived through the Staubach era and loved it.
Why are there so many of you? I don't understand.
Well, because Americans used to be true, and true fans stick with their team whether they win or lose. You don't just jump on a bandwagon. And even though I didn't grow up in Dallas, I have that backstory of sitting on as a kid, being on the plane.
It's a great story.
Which is the reason why I'm a Cowboys fan. Anyway, to my point, since Jerry has taken over, he has done everything he could do to derail their own success. Let me remind you of 1993. Emmett's contract, although they will put in their press releases that he was holding out during out trade. He was without a contract that had expired in June, and he let him sit for the first 2 weeks of the season. And all he did when he did sign him was come in and get the rushing title and take him to a second Super Bowl win and win an MVP that he actually didn't deserve. That was James Washington's MVP. But Jerry literally could screw up a circle. I mean, he could, as my grandfather would say, he could break an anvil. I mean, we all know that Dak needs to go. I don't care how good he looks during the regular season. He is never, ever going to take them to the promised land. Zeke is done. I would be surprised if he makes it to camp, although Jerry, because of his ego, will hold him out, keep him on the roster, so that he just takes up a space where they needed a defender. We've become accustomed to it. And until Jerry strokes out, we probably will not see any success in the Super Bowl.
Not that Kirby's rooting for that.
I'm not rooting for anything. I'm just stating the facts.
Just when it happens.
Oh, it's going to happen.
Well,
Of course, that's not funny at all. No.
No one would ever wish for his demise.
oh, the voice of God coming down right there. Well, it is good problems to have. The problems the Cowboys have, right?
Sure.
That they have to pay CeeDee Lamb, that they have to pay Dak Prescott, again, that they have to pay Micah Parsons, because they have drafted so damn well over the last 5 or so years, but they are handling the problem very poorly, it would seem. Also, they signed Carl Lawson. I missed that. Veteran edge rusher Carl Lawson.
Oh, yeah, we talked about that last week.
Did we?
Yeah, we did. But that's okay. So with everything that's happening in the NFL, I do think a lot of people came into this season or this offseason or in the post initial waves of free agency, right, with the Titans decisions, and looked at the Titans giving Calvin Ridley 4 years, $92, and saying, well, that's an overpay, right? Ignoring the fact that the Titans had nobody of consequence to pay at the wide receiver position and desperately needed wide receiver help. So a justifiable overpay, even if you consider it to be too much at the top of the tier 2 wide receiver market, whatever.
Was it Craig Carthen, the radio personality who I believe Carton, that's right. Not Rand Carthon's.
Well, you made it Carthen.
That works with Rich Eisen, I believe, on the Rich Eisen show. That commented on the Ridley deal.
You've got your sports media figures mixed up
all over the place.
Yeah, you're all over the place this morning.
But regardless, a national sports radio voice that commented on the Ridley contract, and his opinion on it was, my goodness, the Titans traded A.J. Brown just to pay Calvin Ridley?
Sure.
Ignoring the fact that they fired everybody involved with the A.J. Brown thing.
Yeah, that helped get everybody fired, basically, as a part of that. So there are misconceptions about it, but I do feel like a commonly held misconception about the offseason is, what the hell are the Titans doing giving L'Jarius Sneed $17+ million a year and trading draft capital for a guy that the Chiefs were content to let go? Which, by the way, at some point, Steve Spagnuolo, who is the best defensive coordinator in football going right now, is going to suffer for the talent that they have lost. And not because Spagnuolo is any less good, but because at a certain point, it's tough to sustain that level of defense, especially on the defensive side of the ball, especially the corners. And Sneed had been excellent for the Chiefs in the past couple of years. I think that the Sneed deal, the Ridley deal, and then the Kenneth Murray contract.
Yeah, and the Adams signing is easy to look at surface level and say, okay, what are they doing there?
No, I think Jamal Adams got covered because Jamal Adams is famous, but I think most people were like, once they looked at the money, they had the same reaction that we did, which is, he may not make it through camp at this point for the lack of expectation that comes with a contract that small. For what amounts to vet minimum for Jamal Adams to come here. But I think people got confused by the Kenneth Murray contract because Kenneth Murray got legit guaranteed money here, and he's been an underperforming first-round pick. So not necessarily seeing the vision of Denard Wilson in the Kenneth Murray acquisition. The Ridley deal confused people, and then the Sneed trade, I think, confused people even further. And when I say people, I'm not talking about Titans fans. Everybody here, everybody that pays attention to this team, everybody that has witnessed the last 2 seasons of just god-awful, piss-poor football understood the deficiencies that this team had to overcome, and that they would, at least in one offseason, have to buy their way out of some of those deficiencies. But outside of that, a team that finished in 4th place last year, that is again going to have the worst odds to win their division this year, looking around at all the transactions that they made, spending the most money in free agency this year, and saying, what the hell do the Titans think they are at this point? Now, they think that they have put together a roster that can be meaningfully competitive, and Brian Callahan brought up the idea of earning the right to have expectations, right? You have to first get to a point where you deserve expectations before there can be expectations placed on you, which I agree with, right? They haven't, this collection of players, as we've talked about, they have done nothing to date. It's still in the honeymoon phase. This is a very, very, romanticized version of what their season might actually be at this point before they faced any legitimate adversity other than Arden Key's suspension and D-Hop's knee strain.
Well, I understand looking at things like the L'Jarius Sneed trade and the Ridley deal and saying, you overpaid for that guy, or all the questions about Sneed's knees and you overpaid and gave up draft capital. like, you can pick and choose spots to criticize there, but we've talked about the we suck luxury tax, having to overpay for those types of players. What I don't understand is being confused at a team trying to add good players and make their roster better. That's what I don't understand. Like, what direction do you want them to go? To tank? Like, you want them to just keep what they have in-house and then just tank?
Did you see what Field Yates projected them to pick?
He projected them in his mock draft for 2025 to take Shedeur Sanders with the 4th overall pick.
And for those of you who are just completely ignorant about the world of football, Shedeur Sanders is a quarterback. Okay, so, like, this is something that people fully expect them to bottom out again and to continue, basically to go through what Jacksonville did. Right? Jacksonville was at the bottom of the division for years. And what happened? They incrementally stacked talent. And, of course, they had the Urban disaster, which set them back further than the Trevor Lawrence draft pick should have elevated them. But it took them a couple of years and picking at the top of the draft to have the kind of talent that made them a competitive roster. I think most people, and it depends on who you're talking to, right? If you're talking to coaches, they're going to say, no, my job is to win the next game. That's the only thing that I care about. The next game is the most important game, and that is what I'm prioritizing here. If you talk to people in positions like ours elsewhere outside of the Nashville media market, they may look at the Titans and say, what is it in their benefit to do? Is it in their benefit to spend on a roster that may at best be competing for third place in the division this year, which I think, by the way, is completely fair and reasonable expectations for a team that won 6 games, or is it better to continue to have that cap space, roll through it, deal with a little bit of losing, pick up good players along the way, and have a few more J.C. Lathams out there to, at some point, make a more concise push at the top of the AFC, or to try and compete at the top of the AFC with the Bengals, Chiefs, Ravens, Texans now, who we're talking about, these teams that kind of rule the roost, at least for the current time in the AFC. It's kind of like what people thought coming in last year, where they were making some signings that confused people, even though the signings weren't on the same level as Cushenberry and Ridley and Kenneth Murray.
What confused people last year?
That they were making signings to try and field a meaningfully competitive football team.
That confuses me. I'm sorry. I will never look at a team, even a team I don't follow closely, trying to sign good football players.
Lucas, I'm not trying to justify
and say,
the
why
argument.
Are they doing that?
Nobody is justifying that argument. I'm saying that those conversations were being had by people in a larger scale at ESPN, The Athletic, NFL Network, CBS Sports. Like, that was the discourse around them. I'm not saying that it's justifiable. Of course, it's nonsense. Go out there and try to win football games. That's my position. But there are plenty of people out there who advocate for organizations tanking.
Sure.
Because that is the best way to go. Well, that is what they think is the best way to go from the bottom of the heap to the top of the heap in a league specifically built for the parity.
Sure.
I'm not justifying
I see
the
what you're
argument.
saying. I see what you're saying. And skepticism is fine. Like, I'm perfectly fine with ex-national media voice saying, I don't really like that method of roster building.
Correct.
And Titans brass have said that. Like, as we watched Chad Brinker strolling on the practice field, he was
No, you
on
can't say that.
with. I can't even say that about an assistant GM.
No.
He was on with Ramon
He's
Kalen.
not an assistant GM anymore.
That's right. He was on with Ramon Kalen and Will the other week and said, we don't want to be addressing our roster by going out and buying. We know that
Correct.
you need to build a roster in the draft and supplement in free agency, but didn't have really anybody to pay currently on the roster. That's what we had to do in order to compete this offseason. It's totally fine to be skeptical of that and say that usually doesn't work, but never, ever, ever will I understand looking at a team trying to bring in good players and trying to win games and say, what in the world are they doing?
No, you don't have to understand it. You just have to acknowledge that it exists, right, is my point. That conversation exists, where last year we talked about kind of the weirdness of them trying to straddle competitive eras of Titans football, right? Like, we all went into last year largely thinking that was not going to be a good football team, right? That this was a team in transition and that they were trying to transition into the next era of Will Levis, Tajay Spears, while not bottoming out. It's really, really difficult to do. And to be honest, to their credit, they still didn't bottom out. They weren't the worst team in the league. They weren't the best team in the league by any stretch of the imagination, but they still found a way to be in games, to win games like Miami and Atlanta, and find ways to, bother Jacksonville at the end of the year to keep them out of the postseason in games that probably didn't matter but meant something to them, right? This is a different year. It's a different collection of coaches. It's a different phase in that process to get them back up to competitiveness. And I think people are questioning, I know people are questioning the method that they're going about it, whether or not those questions are fair. We don't think those questions are fair because we see it being done every day. We talk to the people every day, and we understand specifically the direction that they're trying to take this thing in. I'm saying that the vast majority of people who are probably, in Atlanta, are they having a different conversation that you and I are having about the direction that this team is going? Because Atlanta is one of the teams with an offseason that I just cannot for the life of me understand. With the Kirk Cousins contract, with the Michael Penix draft pick, with the trade for Matt Judon, with all the money that they're handing out, like all of a sudden I'm looking at Atlanta like, do they think they're a good football team? And they probably do, which is completely opposite from what the vast majority of people looking at the Falcons probably think about the Falcons right now.
Yeah, but it's laughable to me that how dare they think they're a good football team and try to sign players to win football games. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, but that's the conversations being had about all of this stuff.
I understand. I just think it's so stupid.
I agree.
Falcons, by the way, just signed cornerback A.J. Terrell to a 4-year deal worth $81 million, $65.8 million in guaranteed money. Terrell. But those people that will say that about the Titans, right? That, like, what are they doing? Why are they going out and signing all these guys, spending all this money to come in and try and fix a roster that's just not going to be good enough to win, are the same ones that will turn around and say, well, you have to capitalize on a rookie quarterback contract. I mean, that's the only way to succeed in the NFL these days is to capitalize on a rookie QB contract.
Are you acting like this is the first time that you've discovered that there's hypocrisy in sports media and NFL discourse? Or you surely to God you can't be that naive.
Football Fred on the F&M Bank chat says Atlanta is a good football team realistically. They have a good defense and a good offense that was a quarterback away. I don't totally disagree.
No, their defense was not good last year. They were able to manufacture defense, and the guy that manufactured that defense without Grady Jarrett last year got a job in Jacksonville to be their defense.
But they brought in a really good defensive mind as their head coach in Raheem Morris. There are pieces there. You're right. You mentioned Grady Jarrett. They did end up addressing the pass rush, which was the main thing that we were all looking at in the draft and saying, what are you doing? Every pass rusher is on the board. Get the Latu kid. Get Dallas Turner. Anybody, not a quarterback when you just paid a guy $180 million. But ultimately, they addressed that with the Judon trade. I don't know what their plan is with Penix and Cousins. That whole situation is weird. It's funky. But the Falcons, there are good bones in that offense. There are good weapons in that offense.
Theoretically.
Theoretically. That's the thing. They just haven't had a quarterback to really let that play out.
And now they have two.
So
they can't figure out what the hell they're doing with
it. The concept of looking at the Falcons trying to address that and capitalize on the talent they have at the skill positions and on the offensive line and saying, what are they doing, is hilarious to me.
615-737-1045 is the number. So we don't think that the Titans have had a weird offseason because we understand the moves. Do we think the Cowboys have had the weirdest offseason full stop? Yes, probably.
Yeah, because they just haven't done anything.
I think I put the Commanders second because there's so many different moves that they made with so many different kinds of players and coaches on that staff that and I heard I was listening to Mina Kimes' podcast this morning, and I can't remember. She did it with Ben Solak, this podcast, the Mina Kimes show. And they're talking about who do you think is more likely to have a winning record in 2024, the Giants or the Commanders? And both of them immediately said, without thinking, Commanders, right? Because the Giants are, an unrelenting hellhole with what's happening there, and they seem to be mismanaged at every turn, no matter who the coach is, whether it's Pat Shurmur or Brian Daboll. I think you forgot about Pat Shurmur as the Giants coach until just now. I think that there are a lot of different teams that you look at and you say, well, some of those decisions make sense based on where the teams are, but Dallas is so far afield from what the rest of the NFL is trying to accomplish, it feels like, and especially the way that the rest of the NFL does business. Not that being different is a bad thing, but when there are consistent patterns of behavior that show that there are issues with the way that you do business, and you continue to just hit that ceiling over and over and over again, right? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again without changing the way that you're doing it and expecting different results. And that, to me, just epitomizes the Dallas Cowboys.
Speaking of the Commanders, they are trading wide receiver Jahan Dotson and a 2025 fifth-round pick to the Eagles in exchange for a 2025 third-round pick and two 2025 seventh-round picks.
When are people going to stop trading with the Eagles?
That's from Albert Breer. That's the team in the Eagles division trading with the Eagles.
Coming up next, we will get into a new rule that came down in the SEC and why you need to know about it. I'm Buck Rising, live from Titans Training Camp. This is 104.5 The Zone.
It is 10:40. It might be a little early, but I bet you're already thinking about lunch. I bet you're craving the best hot chicken in Nashville, and of course that is Hattie B's. At any one of their 6 mid-state locations, the factory at Franklin, Lower Broadway, Melrose, Midtown, Nashville West, and the Nashville Airport, Hattie B's is a family-run restaurant serving up your favorite Southern food and authentic Nashville hot chicken. By the way, trust me, they have the best sides in town. Try the pimento mac and cheese. Thank me later. Speaking of cheese, it's August. It feels a little bit like fall today, but it is still the summer of cheese at Hattie B's. Go get you some of that Drinking Buddy beer cheese. Dunk your fried pickles, your fries, even your chicken sandwich in there. You will thank me later. Download the Hattie B's app. You get a free dessert just by doing so. Skip the line, walk in, order for pickup, and go home back to the office on your lunch break with the best hot chicken in Music City, Hattie B's.
Welcome back here live at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park, taking in all the sights and sounds of the final day of Titans Open training camp practice. There will be a walkthrough tomorrow. There will be a travel day Saturday. There will be a preseason finale in New Orleans, and you can hear it right here on 104.5 The Zone. We'll take a quick break from NFL stuff, though, to circle back to some SEC news that came out earlier. The SEC has announced new tiebreaker rules for their 2024 conference championship game with week 0 upon us and college football right around the corner. In fact, Saturday. Do we have any games before Saturday, the Ireland game between FSU and Georgia Tech?
No, we do not. Dublin, Ireland, FSU, Georgia Tech is really the only game you really need to be paying attention to. The junkies out there will gladly be watching. Let's see here. Who else is Montana State and New Mexico?
Oh, no, but we're all junkies in week 0, aren't we?
Yeah, sure. 3 p.m. on FS1.
I never thought I'd hear you be dismissive of other college football games.
Fair enough. Montana State at New Mexico. SMU at Nevada at 7 on CBS Sports Network. And the nightcap, Delaware State at Hawaii.
I'm all in.
An 11 p.m. kickoff.
See, for you gamblers out there who have lost all your bets during the day and need to bet the Hawaii game to chase, football is officially back. How dare you be so dismissive of all those other quality football games.
There's going to be a ton of football a week from today. A ton of football on that week 1 Thursday.
In fact, I need to check if there's preseason football tonight. There is preseason football tonight, as a matter of fact, on Prime with the Indianapolis Colts and the Cincinnati Bengals.
Is Al Michaels calling it?
No.
Oh, he has to be.
Surely not. No way.
It's Thursday Night Football on Prime. He's got to be calling it.
There is no way they talked Al into doing. Al can't even sound interested in the Olympics anymore. You think they're talking Al into a preseason
That was
game?
AI. That was AI.
No, they had him on the desk with Bob Costas.
They did.
The AI one sounded like it had more life to it anymore. I shouldn't say that about broadcasting icon Al Michaels. That's terribly disrespectful.
I mean, it's true. He seems disinterested in pivotal Week 17 games with playoff implications. I don't know how he's going to be in on Colts Bengals.
Right, you confirm the idea that he is calling a preseason game. I can't imagine that would be so. I bet it's in his contract that he's not going to do preseason games.
Probably.
Have we done preseason games on Prime before?
I don't know. Not that I remember off the top of my head.
Not
but
that I would be paying attention. Anyway, SEC announced a new tiebreaker situation for the conference championship game.
Bears and Chiefs also tonight, by the way.
Yesterday, there was a 29-page explanation of the tie-breaking process, which may come into play with only an 8-game league schedule and no divisions in the SEC any longer. So the 6 factors that they have, I'm not going to read all 29 pages for you, but I'll give you the cliff notes, the spark notes for those of you who used to skimp on your book reports and do it the spark notes way. 6 factors that they will use to determine the tiebreakers: head-to-head among the tied teams, record versus common conference opponents, record against the highest team in the standings that both teams have played, and failing that, proceeding downward through other common opponents, cumulative conference winning percentage of all conference opponents for each tied team, which is essentially schedule strength, capped relative scoring margin versus all conference opponents, a metric derived by comparing the team's points scored and allowed to the opponent's average points scored and allowed per an appendix in the tie-breaking rules, and then a random draw of the tied teams if all else failed.
Yes.
At that point, give me the straws. Short straw, you're out of the conference championship game. Longest straw, you get to play on. So there are all manner of different ways that are going to determine tiebreakers in the SEC conference championship game in this new look 16-team, no division SEC world that we are preparing to embark upon in about a week from today.
So, for example, let's say Alabama and Texas are tied for second in the SEC because Georgia is the 1 seed. They are headed to Atlanta for the championship game, and it's between Bama and Texas. They do not play one another this season, so it would come down to record among common opponents. Their common opponents this season are Georgia, Vanderbilt, and Oklahoma. Just those three. Georgia, Vanderbilt, Oklahoma. So it would come down to how they fared against those three opponents. So Vanderbilt, you give a win to Alabama and Texas. And Georgia and Oklahoma, toss-up games when you're talking about Georgia. Georgia, Texas, Georgia, Bama are going to be two of the most watched college football games in the country this season. And Oklahoma will be fascinating because Tennessee gets them first. That's their first SEC game. Oklahoma gets Alabama in their second to last.
Such a
SEC
weird thing
game.
for you to say the first SEC game of
Tennessee
the year
and
for
Oklahoma.
Tennessee is Oklahoma.
So Oklahoma's first conference game at home, first one ever in the SEC, will be Tennessee. And then they will host Alabama November 23rd in the second to last week of the regular season. So there is potential here for us to get down to these tiebreakers because I think when you look at the SEC and the potential standings at the end of the year, Georgia, Texas, Bama, and some variation of that are what people are predicting as that top three. So those are the three common opponents. So let's say they're tied. Let's say they are tied among common opponents. They both beat Vanderbilt. They both beat Oklahoma, and they both lost to Georgia, just for argument's sake. Then you get down to the record against the highest placed common conference opponent in the conference standings, and then you proceed through the conference standings among the tied teams. And that's where it starts to get complicated. So I look forward to this. I look forward to the chaos that could be at the end of a season and people trying to figure out all these tiebreakers. And I feel like we are going to have to coach ourselves out of the divisional stuff. I'm still not, I haven't calibrated my mind into the post-divisions era of the SEC, which has been my entire lifetime.
Sure.
Isn't the SEC's charter based on the fact that Alabama automatically wins all tiebreakers, even if they're 2.5 games behind the other team?
No, that's the Cowboys.
It was last year. It certainly
Maroon. Oh, Bama fans are going to come at you for that.
Crimson.
It's maroon. He said.
How dismissive.
Jeffrey Simmons would have an issue with that as well as a Mississippi State alum. He's got to catch him, he said.
Again, Kirby,
that's something I want to see.
I have seen him run down NFL running backs. I would not favor either of us in a foot race.
I don't know, man. When that fight or flight kicks in,
That's right. It's called adrenaline.
Yeah.
And, hey, there's not a car that can catch me when I'm scared.
When I'm scared. Yeah, that's great.
I have yet to see a moment where Kirby has actually displayed true and legitimate fear.
Yeah.
So, that will be the next time will be the first time. So those are the SEC tie-breaking situations if, in fact, it does come down to tiebreakers in the conference championship game. We are live at Titans training camp, so we'll get back to it. Coming up next, what Will Levis most wants to accomplish Sunday in a little bit of preseason action, about 2 to 3 series scheduled for the starters. You'll hear from the starting quarterback coming up next. If you are dealing with nagging joint pain, then QC Kinetics is here to help you. They are the leaders in regenerative medicine, and they have helped hundreds of thousands of patients, not just in Middle Tennessee, but nationwide. Did you know that you can now use your own body's healing properties to revitalize your achy joints and get you real lasting pain relief? I'm talking about advanced regenerative medicine at QC Kinetics. If you are tired of arthritic pain in your knees, hips, back, or shoulders, it's something you need to check out. Everybody's talking about regenerative medicine, and the local medical professionals at QC Kinetics are experts in these amazing treatments. People here rave about the results. You can enhance your joints, improve mobility, and get back to doing the stuff you love without pain, without drugs or surgery or downtime. Under the leadership of Medical Director Dr. Mitchell Shinecup, QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in this exciting breakthrough using cellular therapies. They've got tens of thousands of satisfied patients, and the consultation is totally free. So call now, take action to get lasting joint pain relief with help from QC Kinetics. 615-249-4024. That's 615-249-4024 in Nashville, Clarksville, and Murfreesboro.
11 o'clock, good morning from Titans training camp at Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park. I'm Lucas Panzica. It is the final padded practice of the week as the Titans prepare for the preseason finale Sunday at the Saints. Quarterback Will Levis met with the media after practice yesterday and talked about what he's looking to accomplish in New Orleans.
In terms of goals for this weekend, it doesn't change. Just do my job, not trying to do anything too crazy, and just keep leading us and keeping drives sustained and making the right calls. So I'm excited to go out there and have another opportunity to be clean with our starters.
In NFL news, the Atlanta Falcons are signing cornerback A.J. Terrell to a 4-year deal worth $81 million, $65.8 million in guaranteed money, the largest guarantee ever given to a corner on a 4-year deal. And the Washington Commanders are making a trade within the division, sending wide receiver Jahan Dotson and a 2025 fifth-rounder to the Eagles in exchange for a 2025 third-rounder and 2 2025 seventh-round picks. That is reported by Albert Breer. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Second hour here at the Titans practice facility. That's where we're hanging out. It's our last day of Titans training camp broadcast. Been a fun summer of doing these shows out here at Ascension St. Thomas. We really appreciate Kirby in particular. Now, I don't like saying nice things about Kirby in front of him, but Kirby has made this all seamless, or as seamless as such things can be, and we do appreciate his efforts and energy in all of that. We appreciate you guys for hanging out with us until 1 o'clock. 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to join in. A reminder that practice is technically closed today, even though we are out here taking it in. So we will update you with everything that happened at noon, because right now that information is embargoed until practice officially ends. Brian Callahan will be at the podium. You'll hear from him. Tyler Boyd will be on the radio show after practice concludes. You'll hear from him as well. And, of course, your phone calls are welcome. 615-737-1045 is how you do that. And if you want to just chime in online, the F&M Bank chat is at your disposal. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or on Twitch.
Kirby's
how you interact there.
Kirby's training camp observations have also been embargoed for like the last 4 shows out here. I mean, when's the last time?
This is the third time you've turned your microphone on today.
Well,
Like you're lacking for airtime.
Well, I felt like a redheaded stepchild that's been left on the back porch step in the
I already
night.
have one of those, and I can't get rid of him fast enough
I
either.
have my contract renegotiated, doggone it. If I don't get the 5 things on today, I'm picketing.
Okay, that's fine. Well, that's you can picket all future remotes that you know I don't want to go to anyway.
Kirby just by himself, just
With a
walking,
sign.
marching by
Hell
the sideline
no,
with
we
a
won't
sign.
go. Hell no, we won't go. Yes.
He's going to go smoke a cigarette.
Yeah,
but
that
I bet
Kirby's form of protest is just abandoning us for nicotine. That's how
Kirby's
this
got
works.
like 2 weeks of practice observations built up that we haven't gotten to, so I look forward to that.
Well, Kirby's got a lot of things built up, so we'll see what he has to bring for us at the end of the show today. The final 5 things, except he's got like 25 today, things that Alan Kirby has learned in the past couple of training camp practices, which of course is the highlight of the radio broadcast. Ben McKee is my hero on YouTube. Says
Shout out Ben McKee.
his like the Vols Ben McKee.
Yeah, I suppose. I don't know any other Ben McKees.
You think that's the actual Ben McKee?
Maybe that. I'm going to text him and ask if that is indeed 247 Sports Tennessee Vols reporter Ben McKee, who I graduated with. So I will ask him. That would be great.
He says you guys need to have Emily Proud back on the show. Yeah, Em is killing it. She's flying all over the place. She's doing college football for CBS. She's doing WNBA. I saw she's flying out to Las Vegas to do an Aces game here in the near future. So as soon as Em can accommodate us, we will be glad to have our friend Emily Proud back on the radio show. But in the meantime, let's talk Levis, and let's talk about what the quarterback had to say yesterday and what he's looking to accomplish on Sunday. So First, let's hear from him, Jackson, the quarterback himself, before we give what we want to see. And we also let the audience hear from Charles Davis. Levis spoke at the podium after practice yesterday, and here is what he is looking to accomplish.
I think we feel really ready. I think we had the game plan for New Orleans given to us yesterday, the intro to the base down stuff. And it's cool to see a game plan and be like, yep. Pretty much feel like you can go out and play that day. So I feel like we're all in a really good spot with our knowledge of what's at our hands playbook wise, and really do think we're in a really good spot. But I think in terms of goals for this weekend, it doesn't change. Just do my job, not trying to do anything too crazy, and just keep leading us and keeping drives sustained and making the right calls. So I'm excited to go out there and have another opportunity to be clean with our starters.
Just looking for another opportunity to be clean with the starters. And that's about as much as you can ask for in a preseason game, right? This is not heavily schemed. This is base-level function and operation. Even if it is the final preseason game and a ramp-up for the regular season, there'll still be a layoff of about 10 to 12 days before they actually play a regular season game. So we asked Charles Davis the same question because, of course, Charles Davis of the NFL on CBS, and more recently of the Titans preseason network, where he has done the game. How many years has Charles done the preseason broadcast?
It's
been several.
Yeah, I don't know. Has it been that long?
Yeah, because I remember him and Dan Hellie doing it for a while.
That's right. Paul Burmeister came in to the picture as his play-by-play. Last year was his first year, yes. So, yeah, they've had an all-star crew doing those games for quite some time on Channel 2.
Titans fan have it for as much as there's bitching about the coverage externally of the Titans. You could do a lot worse than Mike Keith, Coach Mack, Charles Davis, and Paul Burmeister on your local stuff. Anyway, here's Charles Davis on what he wants to see from Will Levis.
Just continue exactly what you were talking about. Being able to play that way, being able to go through the progressions, go through the reads, and if that shot's there, go ahead and put it on it. But if that shot's not there, guess what? Check it down, take the yardage. Look, you guys know what the kind of backs you have now, right? You see where the backs are. This is a big time deal where both of them can catch out of the backfield, and that 4-yard gain can double or more, right? So you have all those things that go along with it. That's what he's looking for. He just wants to make sure that it continues to cement itself, because let's be honest about it. Want to give you another obscure reference? Roger Rabbit. Remember the shave and the haircut? Roger had to answer the shave and the haircut. He was dying when Christopher Lloyd kept going dun 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 dun, and kept waiting for Roger to come out, right?
So good.
Well, what are we waiting for with Will Levis? For him to not take the check down and say, you know something, I got a big arm and I'm going to show it off, and throw that thing 35 yards downfield into double coverage. That's what Brian Callahan's trying to, hey, listen, for us to move the ball, for us to maximize these excellent receivers that we have, for us to utilize these running backs that can give people trouble, let's not take unnecessary shots. When they're there, I want you to deliver it. I want that big shot, but let's make sure it's there, and let's not be unnecessarily risky with the football. And again, it's another opportunity for that lesson to be absorbed by him. And so far, I think the early returns are pretty good with what I've seen with Will Levis. I've seen practices, I've seen games. I'm not just taking a quick snapshot. I think the early returns are pretty good. You can see there's times he's like, I want to take this. But he fights himself pretty well and makes sure the ball goes to the proper place.
Charles Davis of the NFL on CBS there. You can check out that full interview that we did with Charles yesterday. So there's a couple of notes in here. First and foremost, because I think you had a follow-up right after that, Lucas, if I remember correctly, about Titans fans wanting to see the big play as opposed to wanting to see the check down stuff, right? Because they know what Levis can do. They want to see the spectacular before they see the routine, right?
Well, it's more that they want to hear, Will Levis is lighting it up at camp, in practice, in joint practice, in preseason games. But the follow-up was about the growth, how growth can be expedited when you're playing regular season games versus in camp.
Yeah, maybe later in the interview, did you talk to him about lighting it up and things like that? I want to see him light up the checkdowns. I know that sounds so antithetical to what it is that Titans fans want or expect or know this player to be, but he he plays with a level of aggression that I want to see reined in from an operational standpoint. I don't want him and his personality. I mean, those two things can be different, right? I want him to play how he's most comfortable playing. I want him to operate how he's most comfortable operating. They're not going to coach out the fire that Will Levis clearly possesses, and if they try to, that's going to be a misstep, right? You don't try and take that away from a player if that's what helps make them, successful at the NFL level. But I want to see him manage the operation. I so desperately want to see Will Levis be a game manager. And that, to me, will be the biggest sign of growth and progress, because last year he's having to make a lot of plays or forcing himself to make a lot of plays because, bleep it, there's no other option. I gotta make something happen here, right? Otherwise, I'm going to end up getting sacked again, or something's going to happen, or I can't trust my wide receiver to run the right route here because I'm working with a bunch of slaps. Like and of course, this is not something that he's saying externally or whatever, but like the internal processing is, all right, superhero mode, go make a play, go try in Miami this thing, go try in Atlanta this thing, because you're Will Levis, Will damn Levis, you can do this. But I don't want Will damn Levis all the time. I want Will Levis to have a completion percentage that is north of 60, right, as opposed to sub 60, which was what he was in his rookie year, sub 59, as a matter of fact. Looked like they're not a pick six type of situation that we see on the far field. I can't tell you anyway.
And you're fired.
Yeah, I broke the rules.
We are going to naturally talk a lot about Joe Burrow when we talk about the growth we're seeing from Levis, because that's the quarterback that Brian Callahan was working with in this offense in his last stop. So what makes Joe Burrow elite? Within the Cincinnati Bengals offense, what makes him an elite quarterback?
Ball placement and how he processes.
Yeah, exactly. Like Joe Burrow's deep ball and leading receivers downfield is not one of the first things that comes to mind when you say, why is Joe Burrow elite? It's his accuracy. It feels like he only makes the right decision.
Correct.
When they're moving the ball down the field. And that is on who to throw to, the timing of the throw, on when to run, how he picks his spots. So, yeah, I agree with you. But at the same time, I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit of a sample size of that Ridley connection down the field, because Ridley does feel like the most beat him over the top wide receiver they have on this football team.
In the preseason.
Yeah, I just wouldn't mind seeing it. It's not necessary, right? I would rather see Levis move the ball downfield than hit one deep ball to Ridley that's an exciting 60-yard touchdown and kind of stutter a little bit in the other offensive series he gets. I would rather see him manage the game, but I wouldn't mind both. Like, I would like to see that sample size of that connection that they've been working on so much and talking about so much. I'd like to see it play out a little bit in the preseason game. Not totally necessary, you're right, the operation, more important, but it's just kind of in the back of my mind, because that is a connection that is going to have to be there for the Titans to have an element that they just have not had in the last couple of years, and that is a good downfield passing game that can produce big plays consistently.
Yeah, because my position on it is, I agree with you. Would it be nice to see on Sunday in New Orleans? Sure. You wouldn't hate to see that. It would make people happy. It would make people feel a lot more confident optically about it. But if they wait until week one to uncork a Ridley deep ball from Will Levis as a shot play after they've kind of lulled Chicago into a false sense of security and paper cut them to death, essentially, because they're, what is the Bengals offense if not slant routes and stuff over the middle and quick, the quick passing game and empty sets and putting the ball in Levis or in this case Burrow's hand to allow him to operate at the highest level. And again, these are two different players, so I don't want to say that the goal is to make Will Levis Joe Burrow. That's not, but it is to take some of the best things that Joe Burrow does within the offense and implement them with Will Levis, because if he can do that, then the ceiling for him becomes infinitely higher. Because I know he can do the spectacular stuff. He's a hugely talented quarterback. There's maybe 5 NFL quarterbacks, maybe less than 5 NFL quarterbacks that have the pure arm talent that dude has. Joe Burrow does not have elite arm talent.
Right, he's not chucking it 80 yards.
Arm strength, right?
Yeah.
But he can kill you. He is an assassin with the way that he dices up defenses, and I think people too often associate the big play with the effective offense, when in reality the effective offense is the short and intermediate stuff that sets up for the big gains to where you can have the dagger moment whenever you need it.
I take it off Burrow. When you flip on a Jamar Chase highlight reel, Like, what kind of plays are you seeing? Yeah, there's some deep balls, right?
and run.
He's a great route runner. Catch and run. Catching a slant over the middle and going across the field from sideline to sideline, making guys miss, dragging defenders. So, but you're right. The quarterbacks are different, so it will be fascinating to see how much this coaching staff leans into that skill set of Levis's that Joe Burrow doesn't necessarily possess. Not saying it doesn't make Will Levis a better quarterback than Joe Burrow, but it is one thing he possesses that Joe Burrow doesn't necessarily lean into as much, and how they balance that's going to be really, really interesting. I'd love to see just a little sample of it on Sunday.
615-737-1045 is the number if you want to jump in. We can also get into what you want to most see Sunday in this preseason game. We'll, of course, have the radio show tomorrow to do it. What?
Football Fred on the FNN Bank chat says, we need Chill Will. We need Chill Will with the splatter of thrill.
Oh, look at that.
Football Fred, just come take our jobs.
Put it on the T-shirts. Now, can you do that for 3 hours? Then you can have our job.
Chill Will with the splatter of thrill. That's what we want on Sunday.
Oh, my goodness. The campaign starts now. Break out the hashtags, baby. Chill Will with a splatter of thrill. I love it. See, we have the best audience in the world. Coming up next, we will get into starting competitions. Are they over for the top-line jobs on this team? We'll update you with the latest. Kirby is shaking his head vigorously no. We'll get your answers, and we'll give you ours. I'm Buck Rising, live from Titans Training Camp. It's 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back live from Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park. The show is fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. Best hot chicken in Middle Tennessee. What is that? What was that guttural sound that you made? Are you just happy to hear about chicken?
That's the sound I make after I eat Hattie B's hot chicken.
Okay, that's very sensual. I didn't realize it was that kind of an experience for you.
Kirby needs a cigarette. Yeah, right afterwards.
Well, Kirby needs a cigarette. Kirby needs a cigarette like his lungs need oxygen. In fact, I think they need the nicotine and the smoke more at this point than they need the oxygen. But that's neither here nor there. Competitions here at Titans training camp on the final day for us of Titans training camp. Are there any jobs still yet to be won? So let's take
starting jobs.
Starting jobs. Let's take a tour down the roster. Quarterback, we got that one covered.
Check.
Wide receivers, we got that one covered. Running back, there's no starters. There's 2 starters.
We know the situation.
Got it covered. Tight end,
Similar to running back,
yeah,
but in a different way in that their skill sets are complementary, right? They balance each other out. It's not similar skill sets like it is at the running back position. But that'll be interesting to see how that develops throughout the course of a season. But it's not this hard and fast TE1, TE2, right?
So more we have a grasp of the situation. There are 2 starting tight ends who play 2 different positions. So let's just go with that.
Or play the position differently.
Correct. Now, the offensive line, left side to center, has been concrete since day one.
Yep.
Latham, Skoronski, Cushenberry. Right guard, there has been 0 indication. And in fact, if anything, Dylan Radins has entrenched himself more as the starting right guard, and there really hasn't been any dispute since he came off PUP that Nicholas Petit-Frere is the starting right tackle.
Yep.
So it seems, ladies and gentlemen, that you now have your starting offensive line 5 across, and how do we feel about the 5 starting offensive linemen for the Tennessee Titans, where Dylan Radins has an excellent day of practice yesterday, had a couple of nice reps in team drills where he was able to stonewall Jeffrey Simmons and hold up in pass pro against Sebastian Joseph Day. Not that he can't get got from time to time, and not that Jeff Simmons won't win a few more of those over Dylan Radins, but Dylan Radins under Bill Callahan, cautious optimism.
Cautious optimism is probably the word. Feel really good about what the left side of the line can look like, especially in the back half of the season. Once Latham kind of gets his feet under him, and because there's going to be moments. There's going to be rookie moments with Latham throughout the course of the year, but feel confident enough in Latham that he will be a steadying force there. And left tackle, left guard, center, like we're not sitting here concerned about it, right? Like we kind of acknowledge he's a rookie.
Latham?
Yeah. But we're not sitting here. Titans fans should not be, I don't think, wringing their hands over the left side of the offensive line. Right side could hold up. They're also going to get got.
You will be upset when Montez Sweat at some point in week 1 beats J.C. Latham like a drum, right? Like that's going to happen, and I think most people are prepared for that. And J.C. Latham is doing everything in his power to make sure that he mitigates those opportunities for it to happen. But good to know, at least heading into week 1, heading into the preseason finale, even if they haven't said officially. I think Brian Callahan's last comments on it were trending towards NPF and Radins as the starters.
They're the starters.
And he said he reserves the right to change things up if he feels it's necessary.
Which I love that he said that, by the way, as the head coach of the team. Like, yes, he does have that right.
Well, but I mean, that's not inconsequential. It's maybe one of those things that he's still learning how much power his words have at being a former coordinator versus now being a head coach, although I'm sure, he's further along in that process than we probably realize. I would say that it's not unimportant that he mentioned that, and I don't think that he's specifically talking about right tackle. I think that's more specific to right guard. So reserve the right to make a change if they feel it's necessary. Right now, trending towards Radins.
Like there's the least amount of separation between Radins and the right guards behind him as opposed to the rest of the line. I think there's plenty of separation between NPF and other candidates to start at right tackle.
Agreed. Now, to the defense. Let's start up front. Outside linebackers, now that Arden Key, who, by the way, is not practicing today, worth noting, Arden Key, Harold Landry, those are your outside linebackers. Those are your edge guys. Your starting defensive line, however you would stack them, is Sebastian Joseph Day, Tavondre Sweat, and Jeffrey Simmons, if you're going to go 5 across on your base front, right? Your 2 off-ball linebackers as of today, I think there is maybe where some conversation could be had. Kenneth Murray for sure, Jack Gibbons for now, but Jack Gibbons, it feels like in training camp at the very least, that Gibbons is the player that they're going to roll into the season with over Chance Campbell, who has pushed and who has had a nice camp and who has had a nice preseason, but still the preference seems to be Jack Gibbons next to Kenneth Murray.
It probably is. But Jack Gibbons is like the Dylan Radins of the defense, right? Where there's the least amount of separation, and it's more because of the options performing well behind him than the Dylan Radin situation, which is they just don't have a lot of options there. But Chance Campbell's had a really good camp. We have talked about Chance Campbell at every turn.
Yep. He's made us.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a credit to him. So he's going to be on this team, and it'll be interesting to see if he does push Gibbons at all. But for right now, I think, yes, we would pencil in Jack Gibbons alongside Kenneth Murray.
Now, corners, L'Jarius Sneed, Cheeto Awuzie, even though they haven't practiced hardly at all in the case of Sneed and at all in the case of Awuzie, those are your 2 starting corners. In your nickel defense, Roger McCreary is your nickel back.
Who, by the way, maybe a conversation for another day, will be, thrown into it week 1 after not getting a lot of work.
The 2 of them.
Just something to note. DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze, week 1.
And Caleb Williams, who looks great.
Yeah.
Looks legitimately great. And, preseason, it's easy for a lot of guys to look great. Now, safeties. Who is starting alongside Amani Hooker? Quandre Diggs.
Yep.
That's been answered. Other than that, it seems like offensively and defensively, where we didn't have that many positions to kind of go back and forth with anyway, off-ball linebacker settled. Starting safety settled. Right guard, right tackle settled. Specialists. Somebody, who was it? A.J. Parkinson in the F&M Bank chat. If you're live streaming the show today on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Twitch, he says Nick Folk's job is up for grabs. Now, I can understand why optically you may want there to be a competition. I will tell you that unless Brian Callahan got up there and lied to us on Saturday night, that there is not a competition at kicker and that this is Nick Folk's job. Now, you can want for there to be more of a competition. You can think, and I don't think you're unjustified in thinking that there should be more of a competition. But what Brian Callahan said to us, and I won't read you the exact quote, but I'll paraphrase, did Narveson change anything in a kicking competition by hitting 21, 59, and the 46-yard game winner? Brian Callahan shrugged his shoulders and said, probably not, but it was good to see. So you can want for it to be a competition. You can think that it should be a competition. You may be right. Maybe it should be more of a competition. But Nick Folk is going to be this team's kicker unless something drastic happens ahead of week 1.
Well, people likened it to the Stonehouse Kern situation, and the similarities are undeniable. Undrafted young guy and veteran that's been there for a long time and is proven. That was a situation where Stonehouse came on, and it was like, oh, we can't keep this guy off the field.
Yeah.
And also the financial element of it was there too. Narveson has not come on in that way. He had a great preseason game, but I think this situation is more of Nick Folk would have to lose the job. Like Brett Kern didn't lose the job. Stonehouse was just too good and too young, and it was an opportunity to lock down your next punter for the next 10, 15 years. But I think Nick Folk would have to lose the job. As opposed to Narveson just being too good, because I don't think that's necessarily been the case.
Somebody, and I'm going to have to pull up kicker stats now just out of curiosity, field goal percentages from last year in the NFL. I am so curious to understand this particular logic that Richie sends us in the F&M Bank chat. Just tired of being mid, and Narveson is legit. So let me say this, guys. He's not been that in practice, okay? And the preseason game is the thing that the most amount of people saw, which is the primary reason for this discourse. Now, I'm not trying to denigrate what he did in the preseason game. He went out there and helped them win a preseason game.
It was really impressive.
Really impressive what he did. The leg strength, he had more to go on that 59-yard field goal, right? But the consistency is the reason that Nick Folk is the front runner for the job. Because Nick Folk's not mid. Nick Folk had a field goal percentage last year that was damn near as good as any kicker in football, with one missed field goal and one missed extra point that I believe somebody got a hand on, but I'd have to go back and watch that game specifically.
Did he miss an extra point?
He did miss an extra point.
In the preseason?
No. In the
last
regular
year.
season.
Okay. Yeah.
Like if you're telling me if your argument is Nick Folk is mid because he's not, a 50+ yard kicker.
Yeah, he's not going to hit the 59-yarder.
But he's on the verge of breaking the NFL record that Suckup held for a long time of inside of 40. And how many of you were begging for Ryan Suckup to come back because of the inconsistency that you had at kicker? I don't want additional variance for a young offense. If they get in field goal range and they can't capitalize from 50 in, then I want the guy that's made 1,000+ kicks in the NFL. I want the guy who was as consistent as any player on the roster last year, on a roster that had precious little consistency. I want Nick Folk, even if it's only for one more year. And if Narveson goes and gets scooped up by another team, okay, the kicker, there will be kickers, okay? Yeah. There will be kickers, and I'm not denigrating Braden Narveson. I'm just saying that consistency matters so much there, rather than being from 60 yards out and thinking that you've got the next Justin Tucker.
But with that said, I'd like to see Folk kick on Sunday.
Sure.
I'd like to see him be one of the starters that gets out there, because let's say, for argument's sake, Nick Folk gets 3 field goals and goes 1 for 3 and misses a 44-yarder, then maybe this conversation is a little more legit.
Sure.
But I would like to see Folk get out there a little bit on Sunday. But for right now, I'm with you. Nick Folk is this team's kicker. What about the returners?
Jaquan Jackson, Tajay Spears, and if Kearis Jackson can get back out on the practice field, then Kearis Jackson.
Yeah.
That's it.
So Kearis Jackson and Tajay on kickoffs, and Jaquan Jackson on punts.
Yep.
I am with that.
I think that's done and dusted.
Let's say Kearis Jackson can't get back out there. I don't know that he can't. He's reminding me of knee that he's dealing with. Cut day coming up on Tuesday.
Yep.
So let's say, for argument's sake, that the knee it complicates and suddenly he has to be on IR. Then what?
Well, then I think the option would be on kick return, Jaquan. Because Rand Carthon specifically mentioned dual return ability. When they drafted Jaquan Jackson, they don't just see him as a punt returner. They see him as a returner. And they also see him as having versatility as a receiver, not just a slot guy, but potentially some snaps on the outside as well to give you that well-rounded versatility. So if not Kearis Jackson, I think Jaquan Jackson. I don't think Mason Kinsey is not a kick returner.
No.
Traylon Burks would be curious, but I don't know how viable that is as he returns to practice today. But I think that the conversation stops and ends with the 2 Jacksons. Whichever one of the Jacksons is available to return the kicks, that's the Jackson that's going to be out there.
They've made a play almost every time they've touched the ball in kicks and punts. So, yeah, I'm with you. The F&M Bank chat is miffed at your dismissive quote of there will be kickers. Taylor says, hard to believe, quote, there will be kickers with what we went through here in Tennessee. AJ says, how quickly Buck forgets how we were in kicker purgatory for a few years. That is fair. This probably isn't the fan base to be like.
You mean the year they made the AFC Championship game?
I hear you, yes, but I'm just saying. Yeah, you know why? Because they didn't kick. They didn't kick.
They didn't have to.
They didn't have to kick.
Score enough points, and you won't have to worry about the field goal kicker.
But that was a unique situation. I'm just saying, this probably isn't the fan base to be like, don't worry, guys, there will always be kickers.
Like I wasn't covering that entire season.
I know.
I could probably name every one of the 9, including Ryan Santoso, who I'm sure many of you have forgotten, and I'm sure that one guy that calls in.
I'm just saying, I'm not going to blame Titans fans for being like, don't sit here and tell us that there will be kickers. We've heard that before. Yeah,
and then what happened? They got to Randy Bullock and they were fine.
Yeah, so
they got to Nick Folk and they're fine.
Roundabout way to get there.
What do those two have in common? Veteran, proven commodity kickers that may not be the sexiest, may not have the biggest leg or whatever, but they're going to go out there and consistently make your kicks. The fact that you were rolling through, And honestly, that was on them. That was their fault for trying to bring Ryan Suckup back after injury because that was a disaster. That was an utter disaster the way that was handled.
There was some juju about that, too, where Greg Joseph, gets cut, and then he goes and has had a resurgence.
He's been fine.
He hasn't been fine. He's been fantastic with Minnesota.
He got a huge contract.
Yeah, he did. He got a good deal. Cairo Santos got a big old contract in Chicago. And, hell, Michael Badgley was here for like 2 days.
You guys want to blame Craig Aukerman for everything else. You can blame Craig Aukerman for the kickers if you want to.
Michael Badgley was here for 2 days last year and looked awful, and then went to Detroit and was their starter all year and was good.
That's what I'm saying.
So there was some weird juju going on with the kickers. I'm just saying I'm not going to blame the fan base for being a little damaged when it comes to the kickers. But I'm with you.
I would say get over it. You have a guy that made, more than 85% of his kicks last
You're
year.
more likely to fall back into that kicker purgatory, in my opinion, by rolling with the guy who had one good preseason game as opposed to the vet that has been nothing but consistent.
Please don't be so quick to throw away the thing that's given you that level of consistency just because somebody hit from 59.
But I'm not going to blame fans.
Point
not going to blame fans for feeling a little damaged about the kicker position and not being willing to dismiss
You know what?
it.
That's fine. They can be butthurt at me because I am going to blame you. It was 5 years ago. Get over it. That's how it works. Coming up next, Brian
2 years
Callahan.
ago, we didn't know who the hell this team's kicker was going to be 1 year ago today.
No. In 19. 19 was the year of the 10,000 kickers.
And then there was Randy Bullock spike there for a bit, but like going into last training camp, we were like, who the hell's going to kick for this team?
Don't forget who, Jackson?
Gostkowski.
Oh, yeah, Gostkowski.
Yeah,
and then what happened was Gostkowski got right. He was completely fine. Completely fine. 615-737-1045 is the number. Brian Callahan was on the morning show. You'll hear from him coming up next. Welcome back to the show. We are live from Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. Tyler Boyd is going to join us. Oh, it looks like it might be relatively soon. I think practice just ended.
It sure did.
For the day. 15 minutes early on the final day of open training camp practice. Like I said, a walkthrough tomorrow, travel on Saturday, New Orleans on Sunday, and then the regular season is finally upon us. So Tyler Boyd will probably join us right about noon, I would say, depending on what his post-practice regimen is. And you'll hear from Brian Callahan at the podium as well. Speaking of Brian Callahan, he was on the morning show, and he was asked a variety of different questions, and the interview was good. I'm sure it's going to be on YouTube if it's not already on YouTube. But specific to Will Levis and the kind of progress that Will Levis is making. This was the head coach on 104.5 The Zone this morning, detailing exactly that.
It's going to be, it's not something that maybe everyone can see, but I think his footwork and how he operates in the pocket is so much better than it was a year ago for him when you watch the tape. It's so much more calm. It's so much more measured. It's his footwork has really come a long way, and he's worked really hard at that to make that fit, because everything in the passing game for us, your footwork is tied in with the timing and the progression, and so that's been a cool learning process for him to start to feel that. And I think as the days have gone on, he's gotten better and better, and he starts to look and feel like what I'm used to watching. You know, with these, I've been around really good quarterbacks, thankfully, but he's come a really long way with that, and that's been really cool to see.
So that's Brian Callahan this morning detailing the level of improvement, or where specifically the improvement has been able to come with Will Levis and where he has noticed it the most. When we talked about that earlier, when we talked about the importance of Tyler Boyd to this offense specifically, and kind of the timing, the rhythm, the progression of the offense, and how important it is for Will Levis to be able to get that down pat, and for the receivers to be able to execute their assignments within the timing and rhythm of the offense, of course, all of that is going to be critical to what they're trying to accomplish. So for Will Levis, that is the most important thing. It's the thing that fans will probably pay the attention to the least, his footwork, his mechanics, but will be the thing that ultimately defines his failure or his success as an NFL quarterback, and the thing that they continue to fine-tune the most day in and day out.
Some notes are coming through from practice. You already mentioned Burks was out there. Arden Key was not. Sam Phelan of A to Z Sports says, really rough day for the Titans offense. Levis missing high on some throws. He says the first-team offense got looks against the second-team defense and struggled to move the ball. J.C. Latham gave up sacks to Khalid Duke and Jalen Harrell. There was a flash of the Levis-Ridley connection with a fade from Levis to Ridley in the red zone period, a touchdown on a fade.
So a bad day for the offense.
That seems to be the takeaway.
Which is exactly what I was looking to not see. I was looking to see them stack 2 days together in the final week of training camp practice, and so to hear that is unfortunate. That is not what I'm sure they were looking for ahead of the preseason game in New Orleans. So we also have Brian Callahan talking about leaning on his assistant coaches and kind of benefiting from the amount of veteran experience that he has at every level of this staff. This is Brian Callahan earlier today talking about delegating.
I think it just starts with the type of people we brought in. I mean, we were really intentional about the coaching staff and who we were bringing in and what they brought to the table. We have young coordinators, but we have veteran coaches, if that makes sense. Frank Bush and my dad and Tracy Rocker and Randy Jordan. I mean, these guys have coached for a long time, and they're really talented. And so I trust them. I trust their ability to manage their rooms and coach the players and build those relationships. And I didn't like being micromanaged as an assistant coach myself. Just let me, you hired me, let me do my job. And I think that the trust that I have in them is really what allows me to do that. And again, they're veteran coaches. They don't need to be handheld and told what to do. They know how to go about their business, and that part's been really enjoyable for me, is that I get a chance to watch them do their thing too, and it's a fantastic coaching staff.
Brian Callahan's live at the podium. We go now.
Just a minor hamstring tweak. really, other than that, all the same everywhere else from the same guys. Nothing really new today outside of those two guys that didn't practice. So not a whole lot to say about the injuries. Pretty straightforward today.
Chavis went off.
Yeah, this is some kind of shoulder. I don't know how. I didn't seem bad, but those are things you wait and see. And but I don't think it was bad, but we'll see.
As far as Arden goes, until this, how do you think his camp had kind of gone? I know you guys have worked him a lot.
Yeah.
First group to get him ready in case he was available.
He's had a good camp. He's had a good camp. He's been physical. He's rushed well. Really pleased with where he's at. I think he's solidified him. He's had a good camp. He's had a good camp. He's been physical. He's rushed well. Really pleased with where he's at. I think he's solidified himself as a legitimate outside backer that can play on all three downs, and he's done a really nice job. So happy with where he's at.
The end of practice yesterday, Traylon came down, Bulls champion, and went in back out there today, of course. But it seems like we see that kind of regularly, and I'm wondering if anything, like he falls awkwardly sometimes.
Sometimes he does, yeah. It sure seemed like there is, because Tua was doing some falling practice, I guess. So I've heard that you can maybe coach some of that. But I think the biggest thing with Trey is that when receivers go up for those balls and they go and turn, they land on their side a lot. And so he's really landed on the same hip like 3 times from the OTAs early in camp, and then again yesterday. So it just hurts like hell at the end of the day. He fights through it. I appreciate his toughness, and he's come back both days that he's landed on it. But those things hurt. The hit landing on your hip doesn't feel very good. So, but good to see him.
This is Brian Callahan at the podium. Tyler Boyd joins us now on 104.5 The Zone. The second time on the show, the first time in person. It's good to see you, Stud.
Appreciate you for having me.
How we living? So we've only had some general observations because it's a bit of distance between us and Field 3 here. But can you tell us about the work that you guys were able to get in today, and what you were looking to see, what kind of situations you were working through, and how you thought everybody fared?
Yeah, we just kind of worked every situation, kind of third down emphasis, first and second down, red zone. Try to do anything, a lot of things out of us. These last 2 practices have been a workload. It's not a typical week where we're trying to figure out the scheme of the defense. So I was kind of winded out there, but I missed all last week, so I got to get back right.
You feel like, so even after just a week, like you got to get your wind back out there?
Man, yesterday I felt pretty good, but today kind of ramped up a little bit. But we're kind of low in numbers at the receiver position right now, so we just got to make it work.
For you, you are such an institutional part of what they're trying to install here. Obviously, you've been asked a million questions about the offense and about Callahan and things like that, but specific to the practices, has he always tried to make the practices harder than the game to get you guys prepared and make game day feel easy?
Yeah, majority of the time. When we first get the starting of the camp, it kind of let us ramp it up. It didn't come out throwing go balls off rip, so it kind of a build up. But now we got the first 2 weeks out of the way. Kind of this week was he just threw things at us. Just different situations, call it periods, unscripted periods. You just gotta know. And once you get tired, it kind of scrambles with your brain. You kind of get mentally frustrated and kind of brain farting through that. So I think that's a good teaching lesson for us to go out there and just trying to just play with whatever's called.
You mentioned the thin numbers at the receiver room right now and kind of make sure, trying to just get everybody to week 1 at this point. Obviously, the preseason finale is on tap, and you guys are expected to play a couple of series depending on how the game situation plays out. Where are you seeing the growth as a unit in the wide receiver room from top to bottom? Because a lot of guys are getting a lot of different reps here, and a bunch of dudes at a logjam feels like your position at the slot trying to make this roster and make an impression in some form or fashion.
Yeah, I think the most important part for guys right now, you got to have it down pat at this point because we're kind of far along now, is just knowing what you're doing. When we call a play, knowing your splits, knowing where to line up, and just knowing your assignment at that point. Once you got that squared away, and just outside of that, just knowing what you got and the hurry up offense, and the hurry up on the ball. We got kind of one-word plays or number of things, how we go about it and line up, and we just got to know what to do. I think once guys know what to do, then they can play free. Kind of get a feel of how the offense is ran, because it's like a timing. It's very much timing on certain plays. But I'm so experienced in this offense. I kind of know exactly how Cali wants to do it, so it's a lot easier for me to kind of help the guys in my position to go out there and do it the right way.
And that level of efficiency, the operation of it, we've listened to Callahan talk a lot, and we've listened to Will talk a lot about footwork's mechanic, timing, and rhythm in the passing game and how all that kind of melds together. And we, of course, know that Will can make throws to any part of the field, but it's about getting the efficiency, about taking the answers to the tests that are the most obvious and not overthinking them when they may seem the most obvious. And it's there's clearly there's clearly growth from you guys as a unit that way, but it seems like for fans there's the need for microwave results, right? And in reality, it's just going to be a growth process for you guys throughout the course of the season. Training camp's really just the start of it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, you have some good days, some bad days. Like you said, it's like Will. The only thing about him is, the good thing about him is he got that arm power. He can throw it anywhere he wants on the field. But he got guys on the field where he don't really got to rely on just trying to get a throw down to the receivers. Like you said, the timing is very pivotal, is very precise. Like you said, it's precision. And the good thing with Will is if he don't got that first look to the boundary, he got enough arm strength to get to his third progression backside. If he need to make any throw. So I think that's the plus that we have as a receiver.
Titans wide receiver Tyler Boyd hanging out here with us after, at least for us, the final day of training camp practice, a walkthrough, and then travel before the preseason finale in New Orleans Sunday, 1 p.m. You can hear kickoff right here on 104.5 The Zone. So as you've gotten more acclimated, and obviously there's not an acclimation period for you with the offense specifically, but with your teammates, with the city, with all the new surroundings, how much more comfortable are you now than when you first got here?
I'm very comfortable.
You just seem generally to be a comfortable human being. Nothing
right.
really. You seem very unbothered generally.
Yeah. I think the hardest part for me was just to coming in and just learning the guys. Trying to figure out guys and get to know guys. 'Cause I knew exactly what I needed to expect on the field. I knew how the offense was gonna go. I knew what Cali was looking for, and I just knew how to kind of help him scheme and get guys ready. But outside of football, it's kind of a dope city. I've been in Ohio my whole career. It's kind of a small city, not really much going on. Coming here, to Nashville, it's kind of
something always going
it's always on. Yeah, man. It's I heard it's the largest growing city in the U.S. and that's huge. Because I just needed a different scenery.
Tyke Tolbert been around the league a long, long time. College football fans, NFL football fans, they know the name Tyke Tolbert and the work that he's done with receivers. What can you tell the audience who doesn't get the opportunity to maybe hear from him too often or see the kind of work that he does with you, what the experience has been like under him?
Yeah, I mean, he played this game, so he knows how to get it done. He's a great teacher at the game, because it's a few things that some of the receivers might not understand in the offense and how Cali is trying to coach it up. And I just think he does a great job when we get in the individual meetings. He just break it down to the fine grain. He'll critique routes, running off certain coverages. He'll pull up old Denver clips for us to show us how to run certain routes the guys feel like they're not as comfortable running. So he'll do a great job of just helping guys defeat coverage and just taking the leverage that you want to take, even though that they're not willing to give it. He's just showing us multiple ways of how to be successful in our routes.
Week one still a little while away, but obviously that's what everybody is waiting in anticipation for. You guys, us, fans, and all that. And Chicago on the road is going to be such a fascinating environment because everybody's undefeated week one. They've been waiting a long time to have quarterback success. Looks like they might have found a guy who's going to be able to elevate them. You guys are coming in with a bit of an underdog story, certainly a gambling underdog and things like that, but with a lot to prove unto yourself. How different is week one from the rest of the NFL season? Because you've played a lot of ball at this point in your career, and I feel like week one is always the wonkiest out of everything that goes down throughout the course of the season.
For sure. I wouldn't judge the season based off the week one, because like you said, I've been playing quite a bit now, and I've been plenty of seasons where I won them and lost them, and some seasons we lost them, we kind of made a run at the end, and some seasons we start off fast and kind of start losing at the end. So I just think it's just going out there week one, just staying disciplined. I think it's more about discipline and sound because every team in the NFL is great. Despite whoever the worst team is, if they got 5 wins or whatnot, 0 wins, every team in this league is good, and every team is capable of beating any team any given Sunday. So I think the most important thing going out in week one is just showing how poised and how conservative we are and how polished, and just how sound, man. We just go out there and play fundamental football, sound football, and out-execute those guys. I think that's a great jump because that's a start where we can get to having so much confidence in one another, because we already have the doubters. Guys don't think and people don't think that we're going to be who we think we're going to be, but we're not going out there to try to prove anybody wrong. We're just trying to show our teammates that we're holding each other accountable and we're willing to do whatever it takes to help this team win.
I like the line from Callahan because we kind of had the same conversation with him yesterday about, you gotta earn the right to have expectations, right? You have to go out there and show that you're somebody who's deserving of expectations before you can actually, have those and work through it. And that's something I'm sure he's been preaching for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, at the end of the day, you got to go out there and improve yourself. On paper, I feel like we got one of the top teams in the league. But again, I mean, I've been amongst that as well. It doesn't really matter. It just matters how much we can connect and bond and unify with each other and just being able to sacrifice on certain plays and go do things that maybe you might not feel like you want to do. Like your running backs is going to go in there and put their heads in there for any blitzes to try to throw the ball to receivers and vice versa. When the running backs get the ball, we got to go in there and stick our heads in there and hit any guy that first shows, So it's just complimentary football at that point. And once we get in sync with just the play calling, the repetition of it, and I mean, I think we'll get overly confident and just start feeling ourselves and being the team who we say we want to be.
Well, it's going to be so fascinating, Tyler, just because you guys have so many different types of dudes as far as the skill players, the skill sets that the skill guys have. And, there's only one football to go around. That's not something that you're unfamiliar with, right? That's the same case basically in Cincinnati. But the way that this is all going to work, I'm just so curious to see how it's implemented. I know what the Bengals offense looked like. We've all obviously seen a lot of Bengals football for as much as you guys were, in contention and competing for Super Bowls and things like that. But the way that all of this is going to work with Tajay and Tony and you and D-Hop when he gets back and Calvin and all the other depth guys who are going to have roles on this team, Titans fans are really excited about it.
Yeah, man. It kind of reminds me of the Cincy offense. You got guys at every position that can get it done, and multiple guys at that, and all 3 receivers we have and other guys that's behind us, we are good at certain things better than others, and I think that's what's so good about this scheme of this offense because it will bring out that trait in that specific player on a specific play. If we need something, I can't get into details about it, but just like, just certain things that we expect the guy to win over, like myself, and he knows for sure that I'm going to get the job done, get it right, and then we got a guy like Red, got a blazer. Like he can run, so he can sell all the deep things. Guys are going to stay heavy on top, and that's just giving us like deep curl routes and just freeing them up. Just so many different ways to get the guys targets and get them open in this offense. Kind of allow you to correlate with every guy and get in sync with what Brian's trying to call up.
Well, because it's incumbent upon you guys to create your own separation, but also this offense feels like it creates those windows for you to operate in, and that's what the best offenses in the NFL do, right? Find ways to put the playmakers in position to succeed beyond what you guys are able to accomplish on your own.
Right. And also just us being so talented with the 3 receivers we have, I think we just have so much good instinct and feel for the game, like myself especially. I know if it's a certain coverage, and I know if we call this play and Will anticipating the throw to me, he's thinking that I'm going to run some the way he's thinking, but once the post snap come and it's a different coverage, that he'll still feel comfortable with knowing that I'm still going to find the lane and find the opening and know that I know that what coverage they trying to get, So I still believe that he has full confidence in the guys that's out there, and he still will stay on his right read when we call it.
The way that Lucas has been telling everybody that these interviews work is that I ask the boring questions so that he can ask the fun questions. You ready?
Yes.
All right.
Sorry you had to sit through that.
Give me some crappy game show music, can we? Nope, Jackson.
Can't do it without it. So this first question is a hat tip to Ramon Foster, our colleague here at The Zone, former Steelers offensive lineman, because I was talking to him about what we wanted to ask you today, and Ramon was curious about coming from the AFC North, which is probably the most rivalry-ridden division in the NFL, to the AFC South. Is there a matchup, a rivalry you're most looking forward to playing, any animosity, a team that you're looking forward to going up against as you go from all the hatred that is in the NFC North to
Truly
now
hatred.
the AFC South?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to say because the AFC North is pretty much, I agree, the hardest conference in football. You know, every week it's a dogfight, and every game is a rivalry. But I think the game I'm anticipating the most in our division is the Houston Texans. You know, because they got a lot of hype behind them. They got a great quarterback. They have a great team as well. They got great stud players. But I feel like if we could get over them guys at least once, twice, that we can kind of take the conference.
I appreciate you so much for the pro move that was covering your mouth in front of the microphone to make sure that you could cough off mic. That was excellent, buddy.
Done this a time or two.
Oh, my God. That makes me so happy.
Been around a
Sneeze
minute.
or something. It went and go. It went and went.
Well, it's also been a minute since the 2017 season, in which, in the regular season finale, you caught a 49-yard touchdown pass from Andy Dalton that sent the Buffalo Bills to the postseason,
yes.
ended a long playoff drought, and Andy Dalton became this revered figure in Buffalo.
Cult hero.
After that play. But you were on the receiving end of that touchdown. So what did Tyler Boyd get from Bills fans after that game-winning play that sent them to the postseason?
It was crazy because I got a lot of hype behind it too. But it kind of started with Andy, and then it kind of started shuffling. And it was like, well, what happened with Tyler? You know, he's the one who caught the ball and scored it. You know, so at the time, you know, I was a second-year player. I didn't really have my foundation yet. So me and my mother kind of run this youth little league organization back home, and I kind of started a foundation for that. And they just started donating like they did to Andy's foundation to one I created for the youth kids, and it generated almost nearly 100,000, and those kids was able to get new gear, travel for free, you know, because out there in that league it's low poverty, you know, it's a struggle for some of the kids and parents, you know. So I was able to kind of sponsor a whole year with kids, not just where I came from, but the whole organization, you know. So that was pretty dope, and I thank those guys for that. But I think our name's still kind of buzzing as of now, but I appreciate everything they do.
You might get a hero's welcome when you go back in October.
That's true. That's awesome. That's a really cool story.
Bills fans are the best that way.
Yeah, no doubt. So we had you on the show back in May, pretty soon after you signed, and we asked you about the other Tyler Boyd in town that plays for Nashville Soccer Club. Had you gotten a chance to meet yet? Had you crossed paths with Tyler Boyd, the Nashville SC midfielder?
No, I haven't. But I know for sure once the season kick around that I'm going to definitely hit a soccer game. You know, every year I kind of always go to a soccer game or two, you know, because they always ask if we want to host and come there. So I'm pretty sure I'll run into him at some point.
You ever go in Cincinnati to TQL Stadium? It's a pretty good facility they got over there.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. The last game I've been there is when they had Messi come up. You
know,
it was rocking.
Yeah,
you know,
man.
And we were winning, and it came down to the last few minutes, and you know, Messi, he's magical. He ended up making it a draw, or I don't know if they ended up winning it, but they came back and either tied it or won it.
I think that might have been the U.S. Open Cup semifinal that ended up going to penalties, and they had the crazy comeback late. Yeah, electric stuff.
Nashville SC had one game like that against Messi too. That one that had all the hype around
the final. It was the League's Cup final.
I mean, he is just unbelievable.
Yeah, he make it work, and the last minute every time, like he kicks it on, like he could watch him. He chilled the whole game. Then at that last quarter,
God mode.
It's different than everybody else.
Get out to Geodis Park. You won't regret it. Okay.
He's the voice of the soccer team, so he's trying to sell you on it. That's what's going on.
The moment you knew, was there a specific moment that you can remember that made you think, okay, this Joe Burrow guy, this is what it's supposed to look like?
Yeah. A specific moment. It's definitely in the 2021 year when we made that Super Bowl run.
Don't remind Titans fans.
I wasn't going to bring that up.
Yeah, I kind of caught myself earlier when I said Joe instead of Will, so I apologize for
Brother,
that.
I covered that game. It looked like a bomb hit that stadium afterwards. People were shell-shocked.
Oh,
you guys came in here.
It wasn't a moment. It was just, it was so, like, he was so confident and so, you know, like consistent every single game. It was like games where it's like every time we get down to we need to score or we got to do this in a certain possession, he always gets it done. Like he doesn't do nothing unordinary to make him like stand out from anybody else, but his precision, his accuracy, and just everything is just sound and just always precise, and it's just always it's perfect. Like he knows what defense is in, post snap, pre snap, and he knows exactly where his reads is. He's just so smart and intelligent and knows what the defense trying to do to him, and he just delivers, just pitch and catch. It just feel natural, especially when you just got studs all over the place, and it's hard to kind of double guys when you go to somebody else, you know. So I mean, yeah, he's just I can't really pin a specific moment on it. He just does him every week in, week out.
Okay, but is he perfect enough to pull off the haircut? You see?
Yeah, what do you think about that?
I mean, yeah. It's Joe, but like he just got that aura around him. Like he could pull anything off. Like he walk in, like, you see when Joe come in the facility with a chain on, it's different. It's different than if I come in here with a chain or somebody else. You know, Joe. It's just, you feel me? Like it's just Joe.
It
man.
must be nice, man.
It's crazy.
It must
man.
be nice.
He put the glasses on for the first time. Everybody blowing. I'm like, man, everybody wear them glasses, but everybody don't look at Joe like that. They look at him like a nerdy guy, a guy who's just chill, who just wear button-ups and khakis. You know, he's a guy who he got some swag to him. You know, he just got to open up, and he's starting to do that. And you know, he's just kind of low-key guy.
Yeah.
Well, Levis has talked kind of about that consistency, trying to be more even-keeled, not letting the previous play affect the next. How much of that have you seen from Will as he goes into his second year?
Huge, you know, but it's a little different when the games come around. You know, when we out there practicing, I don't think he let things get to him. You know, he won't make mistakes, things he already know he gonna regret. You know, but he does a great job of just coming back in and watching film and figure out what he did wrong. You know, he see a certain read that he should have just took instead of getting off it so early to try to go backside and end up throwing an interception or just having to scramble or just get off the whole play at all. But he doesn't show any lack of confidence while he's out there and we move on to the next play, because at the end of the day, it's football. Nobody's perfect. You know, as long as we can control the ball and keep the ball and just don't turn it over, I mean, we'll be fine and he'll figure it out.
Last thing, you stayed home. You stayed in your home state to play your college ball at Pitt, but I believe you took a late visit to the University of Tennessee back in the class of 2013. What happened?
Yes.
Tyler, what happened?
As a UT alum, a broken UT alum, what happened?
Yeah, so they kind of came in late, and I was very, very interested, you know, because I forget the coach who went down.
It would have been Butch Jones at the time.
Butch, yeah, and then the receivers coach was it Norvell? Was it him?
Azani, was it Zach Azani?
It might have been one of them two. But I came down here late because, you know, I had to take my visits late because we ended up going to state championships. But anyway, I came down. I loved it. You know, it was like a real feel of like college environment. Like the facilities was see through. It was just dope. Nothing I really ever experienced. You know, but what kind of helped out was they ended up capturing another 4-star receiver. I think it was North.
Marquez North.
Yeah,
Marquez North.
They ended up getting him. So it just kind of like,
man,
damn. I'm like. And he was kind of a local kid, wasn't he? Or he was closer to that area?
I want to say a North Carolina guy, if I'm not mistaken, which is bordering. Yeah, but a lot of hype around him. He flashed his freshman year, and injuries came about, and it just kind of fizzled. Definitely would have been great to have a Tyler Boyd.
Yeah, if it had me and him.
But you would have had to play for Butch Jones. So
so then I kind of heard. I started hearing things that guy wasn't really feeling them. And I was like, yeah. And then on top of that, I kind of had I was having a child coming out of my senior year, so that kind of killed me from kind of wanting to go far and move away.
Real life stuff. Could have been a champion of life though, Lucas. Could have been a champion of life. Tyler Boyd, so appreciative that you took some time, boss. Continued health and success, and we'll look forward to seeing what happens not just on Sunday but in week 1.
For surely, man. Appreciate y'all for having me.
Coming up next, you'll hear from Brian Callahan at the podium. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Final hour is upon us. Even though we're 20 minutes in, we appreciate Tyler Boyd for hanging out with us a little extra. You're going to hear from Brian Callahan here in just a little bit. See what the head coach had to say about a less than ideal finish to practice for at least the offensive unit. 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to join in. You are welcome to do so. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch is how you interact on the F&M Bank chat if you want to get involved there. Saw Kenneth Murray and Tavondre Sweat also up there speaking at the podium. They've made a variety of selected players available who are speaking with the media now. I see Dylan Radins, I see Julius Chestnut, and a couple of others who are being asked questions by the assembled Nashville media. We will go through what Brian Callahan had to say and some important updates ahead of the final preseason game here in just a little bit. But I do want to kind of hone in more and react to some of what Tyler Boyd said. And the idea of Joe Burrow and his effectiveness in the offense. And Lucas asked a question about at what point did you discern that Joe Burrow was this guy, that this is the way that it's supposed to look for a number one overall pick, and that you're supposed to go about this a certain kind of way, and now you kind of have a more concrete idea of what this person is. And I thought it notable that he gave the same answer that we're kind of talking about here with Will Levis, which was that 2021 was a year after Joe Burrow had been drafted. He was the number one overall pick in the COVID draft. And so they go through Burrow's rookie year, and a good deal of Burrow's rookie year is lost because he has the ACL tear very soon after they beat the Titans. It was a pretty big upset for the Titans to go on the road to lose that way to a rookie Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals that were starting basically an entire backup offensive line, and Clowney, Beasley, and that group still couldn't get a rush on him. And so Burrow gets hurt, rookie season lost. All right, we'll come back and try this thing again in 2021. And that's Joe Burrow's second year, Will Levis' second year. There's no disputing that he's the starting quarterback. This is his offense. These are his players. These are his skill position. These are his skill position guys, and that he is going to orchestrate this thing thusly. You're going to lean on me. I'm putting you guys on my back, and anything else that you can provide to me beyond what I'm going to be able to do from decision making, from preciseness with accuracy and ball placement, because remember those are two different things, and how the offense orchestrates. Not a lot of second-year quarterbacks can just do it that way. But it was a building process throughout the course of the 2021 season, building and building and building, ultimately ending in a Super Bowl run. They came up short of the ultimate goal, right? They lost the Super Bowl to the Rams. Matt Stafford and Aaron Donald are their undoing at the end. In fact, Aaron Donald essentially wins that game on one of the final plays, getting a sack on Joe Burrow and negating any kind of comeback opportunity that Bengals group would have had. But it took that season to get there, right? It took that lead up to get there in real time and realizing, holy bleep, we can go to the Super Bowl with this guy. We can do this. We can go to Tennessee and beat them. Tennessee was probably their hardest game en route to it. I know they beat the Kansas City Chiefs on the road, Lucas. I know it, but think about that game. There were 10,000 different opportunities for the Titans to win that. And I'm not going to say seamlessly, but it was just the thing that made that loss so devastating for Titans fans is the fact that it just kept at every opportunity that you had to take, they just kept fumbling the bag. So we'll hear more from Brian Callahan on this coming up next. We'll carry the press conference for you. Also, your phone call, 615-737-1045. I'm Buck Rising. It's 1045 The Zone. Welcome back live from Ascension St. Thomas Sports Park here on 104.5 The Zone, the show fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. Brian Callahan at the podium. You want to hear from the head coach? We'll toss to it right now.
How's the swing tackle battle going through this camp? You got several guys that are competing for one or two spots on the roster. How's that shaped up?
It's been, the best way to put it, it's been competitive. I mean, those guys have had good and bad moments as all battles go in training camp. I think JD's really started to come on in the last week. He's done some really nice things. John he's started the offseason well. I think when the pads came on, he sort of dipped, and now he sort of fought his way back into the battle. So he's done a nice job. It's competitive with Leroy as well and Jerron. I mean, we got guys that have played football that have done good things. This game will go. It'll be a big final part of the evaluation for those tackle spots. Need to see those guys play and play well when they get an opportunity. So. As best I can say, it's been competitive, and there's been good and bad by all of them, and there's been ups and downs, and so I'm looking for someone to go grab a hold of those jobs.
Kind of evaluation of Chance Campbell, before you saw him, and then kind of what have you noticed about him?
Not as much as I would have, for as much as he's shown up. I mean, he's really done a nice job, but you see just that he flies around. He plays fast. He reads. He diagnoses. He plays with some instinct, and then he's violent to the ball. He's made a bunch of tackles and hits on the quarterback, and he just keeps showing up. And I think that's the best compliment you can give a guy in training camp is they just keep finding ways to open your eyes and you go, wow, what a play. Nice play, Chance. Nice play, Chance. And it just sort of happens every day. So that's the consistency of him making plays has been what's the most encouraging thing is that it wasn't a one-time thing, and he's not very much dipped at all. He's sort of just kept his arrow up all the way through and keeps showing up. So really been a nice camp for him.
How many roster spots do you think are up for grabs here with a couple of days to go?
And then traditionally there's probably 4 or 5 real spots up for grabs that are being competed for, and it's pretty standard every year. I think you're always looking. It's always those last 4 to 6 players, depending on position, and so those are the things that we'll be really keyed in on over this last game here and getting ready to make decisions. Again, special teams plays a huge role in all that too.
Potential to use 1 or 2 of the IR spots that you can use on Tuesday as one or two of your 8?
Sure, those are always conversations, and you see where guys are at. Guys that can return, that could go on IR and return to play, that's obviously part of the process too. So, that's always going to be part of the conversation is how do those spots come into play and where do they factor? And most years they factor some way, shape, or form. So I would think that's something we'll explore as we get closer to the cutdown.
Easier now because you don't have to get them through the 53?
It's much easier now than you used to have to cut a guy and tell him you're going to bring him back and have a handshake agreement, and usually a veteran player that you bring him back to carry a guy through to then put him on IR. So that's a benefit being able to do that this year.
We've seen Weaver and Harold kind of rotating with the onesie. So what have you seen from both those guys, and what are you looking to see when they're with the ones?
Yeah, 2 things. I mean, there's a run game part of it when they're rotating, the physicality, being able to set the edge and play physical in the run game. Both of those guys do that well. And then there's the pass rush part of it, is where they coming in to spell Arden and Harold. And then what does that look like? Are they being productive? Obviously, Jalen's had production in the games, sacking the quarterback. But so far, I've been really pleased with the way those guys have played, Jalen in particular. And Weave's really been really physical against the run in the games, which has been good to see. So I think we got a good mix of guys there in those 3 and 4 spots at the outside linebacker position.
I was talking about Rashad yesterday. He said he kind of plays best when he's angry. How do you get that level outside of Lake County?
Yeah, that's our job as coaches, is to find a button or 2 that needs to be pushed, and I think Denard does an excellent job at finding those buttons when necessary. But yeah, it's a knowing the person and knowing what gets them going and doing that as much as possible.
Not sure if you could put a percentage on it, but when you're evaluating those last couple of spots, how much comes down to what you see Sunday versus what you've seen this last month and a half?
It's just a part of the evaluation. So it's how are they in the meeting rooms? How do they conduct themselves in the building? What's their interactions like with the position group? How do they perform practice to practice? How do they perform when it counts, when there's a game? So all of those things matter. There is definitely a weighted emphasis on the game because it's football. You get to see them actually go make plays and see if what you see in practice translates into a live action football game. And so it's a totality when you're looking at making a roster cut. It's very rarely based on one game. Most of the time, there's going to be quite a bit of input from the entire course of the offseason and training camp. So, but the games they're important. So you want to see guys play well.
This is technically the last. Today's the last open day of practices. Is it the last day of camp? And if so, what changes next week as far as the schedule?
Yeah, this is the last day of training camp. In terms of training camp schedule, we really don't have much next week. You have 2-3 days you use to start the prep on Chicago, but we'll transition more into our regular season cadence next week for practice. It's still not going to be exact because it's not the same. It's not a full week, and then those guys have that mandatory time off on the weekend. So it'll be starting to transition into regular season spot. This is our last official training camp day. We'll still be in pads for sure once, maybe twice next week. We'll see where we're at, but the training camp portion per se is over, and we're transitioning into regular season, get ready to play.
Will, the adjustments that you guys have made in his mechanics that he's done. As part of that, does he also kind of have to relearn now that he's throwing differently? Does he also kind of have to relearn, okay, the ball may go faster or further here, that sort of thing?
You'd have to ask him. He could tell you more in detail. That's a kind of quarterback to quarterback thing. Nothing that I've noticed would make it feel that way to me, to my eye, but that's more of a probably question for Will when you ask him about his mechanics. But no, I haven't seen anything that would lead me to believe that there's an effect, positive or negative, to that. I think he's found his way through it.
That first period of offense didn't end great except for the penalty that set you up for the field goal.
Yeah.
The 2-minute period didn't end well.
No.
What did you think of those two?
Not what we're looking for. Obviously, you'd like to find yourself in position to go score points in a 2-minute drill. Our defense, when they want to pin their ears back and rush, is hard to block. Our front's good. They've proven challenging for us. So, yeah, I mean, we'd certainly like to see better than what we saw today, but that's the ebbs and flows of camp. We've had some good drives, and we've had some ones that went the defense's way. So as the head coach, I get to be excited that the defense played well because they did. But, yeah, I'd like to have gotten more from that, I think.
Kenneth Murray, all you thought he would be when you guys brought him in?
Yeah, absolutely. He is big and strong and fast and physical, and he plays football the way that linebackers are meant to play football. And he fits well with the system. Fits what Denard wants from the defense and the aggressiveness that he plays with. I've been really, really pleased with everything that he's brought from off the field to his performance on the field. He's had a really nice camp.
That's Brian Callahan at the podium. A lot to react to there. Last call for phone calls. If you got them, 615-737-1045. We'll do that and update the polls coming up next. Welcome back to the show. We are fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. Last segment of the year for training camp broadcasts. How about it? Bert is thumbs down. That means he's being relegated back to his small, dark, smelly little room where we keep Jackson as well. Kirby has 75 practice observations because he's been usurped by Tyler Boyd and Will Levis and Denard Wilson and all manner of other people who Kirby thinks he's more important than.
Wait a minute. What do you mean, thanks? What have these guys done? They've been here for a minute.
You know what? That is true. This
I have
is your
decades under my belt.
How many training camps is this for you?
This is 20.
Oh, God.
Yep. Kirby was here before, and he will be here after.
I helped dig the hole that bubble sits on.
That the dirt came from.
Well, that's
That
in the
bird's
jar
dirt.
over there.
All right.
So are we
Go
doing
ahead.
this?
We're doing it.
Okay, well, this is Camp 24 Rat Recap, and what have we taken away from this year? Apparently, and I don't get into social media much, I stick to things that are important.
That's not true. You send me cat videos all the time on Instagram.
Okay, well, out me then.
Like he said, the things that are important.
Cat videos. Apparently, the man bun is still a thing, and you can just ask Bert.
Yeah.
Look at it.
Man
there
bun-
it is in its
man bun
glory.
is-
Look at it.
Man bun has been back for a while, I feel.
I mean, it's been back. I thought it had finally faded away. I don't
know.
But
Have you got
like
it?
the puka shell necklace, but no. It's back.
I'd rather be man bun than man boobs.
Hey, these are the 5 things I learned.
Well, unfortunately for you,
Hey, come on. All right, Kirby, back. What's thing number 2?
maybe that shirt's just a little tight.
We think we have an O-line, ladies and gentlemen. Keep those fingers
Oh,
crossed.
please, God.
We also learned that Buck is a pussy cat when he's away from the show. I'll leave you your own imagination.
Away
there.
from the show. I think the whole thing is on the show.
Well, I'm not throwing anybody under buses.
Just
and
backing over them.
We
with a
have
bus.
been blessed. I have to say this, and this is true. No joking aside, or all jokes aside. We have been blessed with some of the greatest camp weather in the history.
Oh, my
no one
goodness.
died of heat stroke, although it was
Incredible.
really little warm. The last 2 days have been postcards, and that one overcast day was Christmas in July.
Truly.
No pun intended. And the football's been pretty good as well. And then lots and lots of shameless self-promotion. That's a wrap.
All right. Another year in the books.
Brought to you by Kirby Allen Kirby.
Amen. Well, Kirby, appreciate your diligence, your observations, your big J journalism as always. And now, I think it's time for some polls, yes?
Yeah.
Oh, man, we had to dust that one off. Been a while since we heard Beavis and Butthead, one of Rhett Bryan's greatest impersonations. The polls are presented by Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. What is the Titans' starting job that is most in question? Titan86 on Twitter says inside linebacker alongside Kenneth Murray. He says Otis Reese and Chance Campbell have looked promising.
Well, Otis is in the concussion protocol, so that's out. The Gibbons thing seems not inevitable, but at least for now, it is going to be the week 1 situation I would anticipate.
The Brian on Twitter says right tackle, but I don't think that is in question.
No. Right tackle has been one of the least disputed positions since the starter came back off PUP.
Which NFL team has had the most confusing offseason? Miller says the Falcons trading for Cousins and then drafting Penix at number 8 was something. Tennessee Dog says the Dallas Cowboys saying you're all in but then doing nothing to show that you're all in. Mark says the Indianapolis Colts.
The Colts? Well, if you read the reports coming out of Colts camp, people are very, very not optimistic about how this offense is looking. But, perhaps that is something that is specific to training camp. Perhaps that is something that is just the preseason. Perhaps it is something bigger. Who's to say? Did Colts have an odd offseason? If I remember correctly, it was very much a Chris Ballard offseason.
Just signed a bunch of their own guys.
They had all the money in the world, and they did what Chris Ballard always does, which is spend it on their own dudes. That's been his MO.
I believe Anthony Richardson is expected to play tonight. Colts, Bengals, preseason finale on Amazon Prime. If Al Michaels is not doing it, who is? I don't know.
I don't know. Somebody else.
Hopefully
Anybody
somebody
else.
I do look forward to seeing him.
Hopefully somebody else is what you just said about broadcasting legend Al Michaels.
Hopefully for Al Michaels. For Al Michaels' mental health, I hope he is not broadcasting the Bengals-Colts preseason game in which Logan Woodside, more than likely, will attempt at least 12 passes.
Yeah, Titans legend, baby. Prime Video. You think they got how they came in studio with us when the Titans had a Prime game and shot some B-roll, a hype video. You think there's a hype video leading up to the Logan Woodside start?
So.
Oh,
I
that
hope
would be great.
What has been your biggest takeaway from Titans training camp? Rand says back end of the roster still has a lot of developing to do, but most players seem to be responding to the new coaching style. He's optimistic and hopeful that they see some results.
I mean, They weren't a deep team to begin with, and their depth has improved because their top-line starting players got better, so their depth inherently gets better. I would say that there are plenty of question marks, that there are a lot of position groups that I feel are paper thin. Hell, Tyler Boyd talking about how thin they are at wide receiver already heading into week 1, so something to keep an eye on there.
What is the biggest question mark about the Titans special teams unit? 47% majority are saying returning, 39% say kicking, 14% say punting.
How on earth is there that big of I mean, I guess I get the Narvison thing being the last thing that most Titans fans saw, but I just don't know how you cast Nick Folk aside like that. Bullock was tailing off at the end before he got cut. And also, he cost a lot of money. Folk is on a one-year deal. He's super cost-effective, and all he did was make all but one of his kicks last year. It's weird to me.
Again, I hope we see him on Sunday, Nick Folk.
Agreed.
I'd like to see Nick Folk.
I'd like to see them both. If Brian Callahan is going to back us off a kicking competition in the press conference, all right, well, then let's see it, and then we can make a determination afterwards together.
Those are the polls.
That is the show. We are back in studio tomorrow. We will have Coach Dave McGinnis. We'll talk a lot about what we saw in Titans practice and leading up to the preseason finale. Have a great rest of your afternoon. Check out A to Z Sports at about 2 p.m. We'll have the live stream 615 Sessions podcast with Teresa Walker, who makes her return from the Paris Olympics and has been back here at Titans training camp. In fact, presented an award to Bill Callahan earlier today. Have a great rest of your afternoon. Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons coming up next.